summer breeze. Fresh water, salt water, watch out, boys. Bass Daddy Don's gonna make some noise. It's me and the boys gonna shake, rattle, and...
Now, here's your host, saltwater fisherman, the man that fears no fish, Bass Daddy and Tournament Pro, Don McDowell.
Yeah, man. Hey, I'm Don McDowell. Welcome to Shake, Rattle, and Troll today. In the studio with us, yeah, the man that speaks to elk. Special K, what's happening, brother?
Morning, Bass Daddy. Feels like a new seat. I haven't been here in so long.
Well, you have. I'm glad you got here. I was tuned into the station, and as I was coming in this morning, I learned that NASCAR fans are racist.
You know,
I'm like, what?
It's an overgeneralization.
Oh, man.
You know, the symbol of the Confederate flag, everybody likes to look back historically at different things. I mean, I'm sure there's some a chart of arms that people have in England that are considered bad, you know, but it's historic. I mean, that's part of it. We've gotten over that. Today, you don't live in the past. You live in the present. You can't prognosticate the future, so you just deal with what is today. And certainly it's a heritage from the South for some people, but you leave it alone. That's them, not us.
Exactly. You know, on the NASCAR front, last time I checked, 76% plus of NASCAR fans have hunting and fishing licenses.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
I mean, it's just part and parcel of who we are.
Anyway, I'm stunned. I mean, you know, if we'd have said that, would have been racist. They say it, and it's okay, and we got to swallow it. But you know what? The winds of change are blowing.
By the way, speaking of winds, you know, the last 2 weeks I was up with your son way up north. We were hunting, and
was the wind blowing?
You know, the first weekend, the first day. I mean, if you look at how odds are, it was 70 degrees up there. The elk were talking. And then the first day that he had his tag, we got up there, and we were up there at 5 o'clock in the morning, and the clouds just let loose. It rained all day Friday, the first weekend, half the day Saturday, winds blowing. It was just garbage. And then last weekend, we get back up there, and it's cold. You know, temperatures on Sunday morning were 22 degrees when we started. I mean, there was a heavy frost. And the big bulls, of course, they're smart. They didn't get to be big by being dumb. They wound up going out, and with the biggest full moon, those bulls aren't starting to go to water until well after dark, and they don't come back. They come back in well before daylight ever hits. You can't pick up a big bull unless it's a sheer accident or somebody bumps one.
Wow. Have you heard a lot of people having success?
Negative on that. Negative. And you know what's funny is there were certain areas where the bulls still talked even after we were shut down, but it was just different units. They had... You know, in 5B South they were talking, a little bit over in 4B they were talking, which was the exact opposite early in the season. Early in the season, 4A was talking and 4B were not. It just varies. I
spent some time yesterday with our buddy Joe Notch over at Lookout Mountain Outdoors. His guy, Pat, that works on the guns, he's doing some gunsmithing and archery tech work with there at the shop, and he was 12 days in 5B North.
Yeah.
Zip.
Nothing.
One of the guys at church was up there as well. He had a cow tag. He had opportunities. Didn't collect one. Pastor Scott, bless his heart, had a hard fight. He had a muzzle loader, 50 caliber. I think he spent a week. Went up on a Wednesday, scouted Wednesday, Thursday. The hunt starts on Friday, and about Wednesday, I believe, right before end of the day, he knocked a spike down.
Well, we were seeing the same thing. The cows and the calves and spikes, you know, the typical hangers on to the cows and calves groupings. I mean, we had cows 15, not even 15 yards from us. And I saw a spike that no more than 18 yards. It just, Donnie didn't have an angle on it. We were sitting water tanks. They were coming in, and the timing was perfect. You could hear them mewing and talking and doing everything else.
And you were talking back to them.
I didn't talk back. No,
really?
Not the second weekend, no. No, they seemed to be talk shy the first weekend, so I just kept it quiet after that. But when they were coming in, you could hear them mewing and filtering around, and I almost got ran over a couple times.
Wow.
So you could hear them. All of a sudden, the wind would shift, and that was the other thing. The winds were real fickle, and you could feel it all of a sudden at the back of your neck, and there was just like an explosion. The whole herd would take off. You hear crashing and everything else going on. That's just hunting and the way it is at the late hunt. The success rate on a late season archery bull hunt is usually less than 10%.
Wow.
That's why they call it camping with a bow.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the full moon phase affects hunting as it does fishing. How much of a factor was that?
Oh, it was huge.
Huge. Second week.
The second weekend, we had the biggest full moon that we've had in 50 years, 60 years, and literally I could pick out animals without the aid of any light whatsoever at 100 yards.
Wow.
It was just brilliant light. You could see animals. You could see all kinds of things going on, but it's, not legal to hunt them.
Yeah, well, they're out feeding and messing around, take water, and, brushed up by
Absolutely.
dawn's early light, so to speak.
Yep.
I like that. Dawn's early light is a lot better than the crack of dawn.
Dawn's early light,
I'm just saying.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Well played.
Well, today we're going to visit with a sportsman, not unlike ourselves, Denny Behrens from Grand Junction, Colorado. We're going to talk a little bit about wolves up in that part of the country. Denny was instrumental, along with Don Pay and some of us here in Phoenix, working on the Trump campaign. Everybody's pretty excited, but, the work continues.
Absolutely.
And I understand Larry Voiles is throwing his hat into the ring for director, replacing Dan Ash of the United States Fish and Wildlife Service.
Oh, that would be such a dream come true.
Well, he's pretty well experienced with the department, WAF, and some of the other things that he's
he's well known in Washington as well.
No, well, he's quite the statesman.
Yeah.
So,
that would be the best case scenario that we could possibly have in terms of a person who identifies with us in the position that I think it was appointed for in the first place, not an environmental movement, Dan Ash and Sally Jewell.
Yeah. Where's Dan Ash going? I know he was looking at HSUS, the Humane Society, there for a little bit, and then accepted a position at some type of a zoological
I knew that
sort.
he had been rubbing shoulders quite heavily with
Sally Jewell.
Yeah, but also with Wayne Pacelli from the HSUS. It's just the whole of Washington, D.C. in the last 8 years has become strictly green. End of story.
Well, I think the way things are going right now, we're looking at a couple of different initiatives. Here in Arizona, we've got, kind of a landmark court decision come down on the Mexican gray wolves and the Fish and Wildlife Service that we'll be monitoring that. Attorney General Bronovich will be with us. Congressman Paul Gosar is coming in. Commissioner Davis is coming in. And some of the things that we're working on a personal front, we've got a battle plan against Tonto National Forest to gather information on the Tonto National Forest plan, on just exactly who they have been talking to on wilderness designations. And they're not admitting it, but we know doing our best to find out. We're looking at talking to Will Coggins in the next couple of weeks from environmental activists on green decoys, TRCP, backcountry hunter and anglers, and some other folks that purport to be brown, but they act kind of green. So we're gonna, I'm not gonna accuse them of anything. I'll let the facts out. We report, you figure it out. And,
Congressman Gosar pointed out really appropriately at this point that up until now, President Obama has designated in land and water over 544 million acres under the Antiquities Monument Act.
And it's not over with. All right, we're going to stand down. I'm sure during the break, are you going to demonstrate how to talk to elk?
Sure, why not?
Like, yo, big boy, come on over here. Yeah, we'll be right back. All righty, we're back. We're going to change gears and go to downtown Grand Junction, Colorado, with our friend Denny Behrens. Denny, what's happening this morning, my friend? How's the weather up there? What's your temperature?
Oh, good morning. Good morning. Well, it's about 32 degrees outside and a little partly cloudy, but it's still dry. We had snow a couple days ago, and the Grand Mesa got a skip of snow, and the upper mountains got some snow, and it probably helped some of the elk hunters and deer hunters on this last season. And hopefully, because we hadn't been killing any elk to speak of over the first 3 seasons. It was been so dry, and guys were having a hard time finding them. There were I talked to a lot of outfitters, and they've been from the low country to the oak brush all the way up to the top of the Continental Divide. They're having a tough time finding elk.
Really?
Yep.
We've had, we just finished up one of our late hunts. Joining us, I don't know if you know John Colazar, but
good morning.
Meet John's president of ADA, and the man who speaks to elk himself does a good job. A wonderful elk caller.
Yeah, we noticed here in Arizona that the early archery season, it was really dry, but it was sporadic. There would be certain units that would get water, and the elk were going nuts, and then in certain other units where it was dry, they weren't talking at all, which is really hard during an elk season. If they're not talking, it's virtually impossible to get in close to them in archery.
Well, that's part of the game. Denny, I want to thank you for joining us, and certainly thank you for all of your hard work, along with Don Pay and some other sportsmen up there for Donald Trump. I like the way the winds are blowing right now. It's pretty comfortable, but good job. A lot of hard effort.
Well, thank you very much. We got out early and tried to do some videos and some sound bites for Mr. Trump, and we think, though Colorado, we did not carry Colorado, but we think we got a lot of enthusiasm out there across the nation, and Don did an excellent job, and I mean, I think a lot of credit is to the sportsmen coming out to vote was Don Pay and also Don Jr. Himself.
Absolutely.
And, what a spokesman, and what a brother. That's the way I look at him as far as the hunting fraternity is concerned. We had a lot of good talks about hunting and his fishing and Eric's fishing, and those are just a couple great guys.
Well, we had him, with your help, we had him on the show, and he did divulge that he catches bigger fish than Brother Eric does. So I thought that was great.
Well, it's always good to have a rival within the family. I know my son took a really good buck opening day of archery season, and we got to watch the whole thing. Took him about an hour and a half to make that stock, and a 40-yard shot on a really great high country muley.
Well, you guys got some wonderful hunting up there. I've had the pleasure of hunting in your state. In fact, not too far from Grand Junction on a couple different occasions. But, you and I were talking last week about the big wolf issue. Kind of fill us in. What's going on up there with
you're
wolf?
really close right now because of the expansion down south and east from Montana, Wyoming, and all those places.
Yeah, we kind of feel like an Oreo cookie. And, you've got wolves coming in from the north, and, we've had a few ranchers and people say they've seen wolves in the south. Not many, but about 3 months ago, our division came out, Parks and Wildlife, and actually said we do have wolves in northwest Colorado.
Yeah.
And they game cameras scattered now throughout the northwest, and they're picking up wolves on the cameras. The division is. People are seeing them. They have been seeing them. And so, and he also said, Director Broscheid in his statement, that, those guys that are out there hunting, you see what you think is a coyote, you got to take a second look and make sure that it's a coyote before you shoot, because they're still federally protected. We hope that'll change, hopefully by the end of March. But we've got to be leery. If a guy shoots one now, especially, he's got to make sure that his target is a coyote. And if he ends up shooting a wolf, the best thing he can do is call the CPW right away. And, I mean, accidents do happen. We all know that. And so it's important that if one of the guys does pop one, they've got to call CPW right away.
Denny, to your knowledge, are any of these wolves being monitored via collars?
Yes, they are. We actually had an incident where there were some livestock. About 7 cows got taken down in northwest Colorado, and they weren't sure what killed them. APHIS went up there which is Animal Damage Control. They went up there to try and check it out. There was a tremendous amount of coyote tracks around those carcasses, and they couldn't determine, what it for sure, but they're blaming it on coyotes. But during that entire search while they were up there, they found a collar that had come apart, not one that somebody had shot and threw down. It actually fell apart, came off the wolf. And that particular collar was from a Wyoming Fish and Game wolf that they had collared, Wyoming Fish and Game. And so, that makes it obvious to us that they're migrating down, and those people that have been seeing wolves in that country have been telling us this for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And so now they're seeing packs. We had one lady that was walking her dog and came upon what she thought was a coyote pup, and ended up being, by the time the whole incident was over, there was 4 pups and 2 adults, and definitely were wolves. And she had quite an experience with that, trying to get her dog out of that situation. So
she better have done it quickly, because otherwise it was a dead dog.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, what's the, you're talking about March, what's coming down, potentially a delisting, perhaps?
Yeah, we think maybe, I talked with Dante, and you don't know for sure, but with Mr. Trump, after the 20th of January, we think that probably after that, probably by the end of March, we'll see a delisting on wolves. And, and that, we've been waiting for that for a long time, and a lot of states have. But what that does is turn the authority of managing wolves over to the states. And then, like here in Colorado, that's going to be a battle. We don't have a wolf management plan. And so that plan has to go to the legislature. And
Denny, hang on a minute. How come your DNR or Game and Fish, whatever you call them, hasn't developed a plan for this? I mean, this has been coming for a couple decades.
Yes. Back in 2005, we had a wolf that was killed on Interstate 70. And when that happened, the commission at that time decided, well, maybe we ought to do something. And so back then it was called the Division of Wildlife after their merger in 2012, and now it's Parks and Wildlife. But back in 2005, the commission put forth an MOU that they put a group of people together across the state, sportsmen, division people, and the pro-wolf people, livestock industry. They all sat down and they looked at the issues and said, well, we need to come up with something. Well, they came up with what was called their wolf recommendations. And so they're nothing much more than just recommendations of, should the Parks and Wildlife get involved in managing wolves, and, Are we going to be able to have APHIS come and get involved in managing wolves? But nothing was ever done as far as a mandate or going to the legislature to pass a bill, because in the state of Colorado, in order to have a license, you have to go through the legislature to get that accomplished.
No, hey, Denny, I need to have you hold that thought. We need to flip into a hard break, and we'll get back to you right after we thank some of our sponsors. I'm Don McDowell with Denny Burns in
Special
Grand
K.
Junction, Colorado, and the man that speaks to elk. We'll
Amen.
be right back.
History lesson, young folks.
All righty, we're back. Our brother Denny from Grand Junction, Colorado, joining us. Denny, I appreciate you playing along today. Go ahead and finish your thought on the wolf plan.
Thanks, Don. Like I said, back in 2005, they developed what they called recommendations for wolves, and that group of people was comprised of agriculture and pro-wolf people, the Division of Wildlife, and also sportsmen. And they came up with some recommendations on wolves, but nothing was cement. It was not actually a plan. And, part of that is to say, well, how many wolves are we going to have in Colorado, or how are we going to manage wolves when they come into Colorado? Especially with the livestock industry, if someone, feels like they've had an attack by wolves on livestock, how is the state going to address that? And the other aspect I started to allude to was the fact that if we go for a wolf license in this state, that has to go to the state legislature. And so,
what's your legislature
Makeup, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, right now it's kind of a battle. The House is held by the Democrats, and the Senate is held by the Republicans.
Oh, man.
We have a Democratic governor, but our governor, real early last year in 2013, he signed that document along with the other four corner governors concerning Mexican wolves and northern gray wolves. And that's a pretty solid document. You guys have probably seen that on your end down there. And stating we do not want an introduction of wolves into the state. As far as the Mexican wolf, historically they've never been here. And even though U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service says that there's adequate habitat for them, our position is, and always has been, that historically they've never been here. And so that was a positive thing that was done. And then there was a huge battle in February of this year to try and get the commission to put forth a resolution on wolves. And we were heavily involved. Big Game Forever was heavily involved in pushing to get that passed. It ended up on a 7-4 vote. And so there's a resolution that basically says the same thing as what that document that was put forth by the Four Corners governor.
Wow.
So that's a positive for us. And but still, we feel that once there's a delisting, there has to be a wolf management plan.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised. We're pretty familiar with Bob Broscheid. Any thoughts on that, JK?
Yeah, I mean, Denny, Bob was here in Arizona. He was part of the executive council for Director Larry Voiles when he took that job up in Colorado, and I know he had significant exposure to the MGW here in Arizona, as well as all the plans and all the activities that went on. Obviously, you had the signing by the governor of the Four Corners grouping regarding the Mexican gray wolf is a substantial move. But the question is, and I don't know the answer to this, is what happens if the wolf population expands all throughout Colorado without any consent by the state of Colorado to have it? And then what happens to states like Nebraska? if they suddenly get into cattle country? I mean, these are some issues that I don't think everybody's taking a look at. That's why I think the delisting is absolutely a necessity.
Well, it's true, and we've had numerous conversations with Bob, and we respect him highly, and he's on our side. It's, one of the key things he says that we need that delisting, and of course we've been pushing on it. Big Game Forever has been since 2010, but we think that as soon as that listing happens, Bob knows that we need to sit down and start working on this document, this wolf management plan. And like I said, we've had numerous conversations with him. And but again, understand in this state, guys, right now it's a political battle.
Yeah.
We're facing Humane Society of the United States, Defenders of Wildlife, and then back in March, Ted Turner jumped in, and they had a big conference in Denver, and they're pushing forth a campaign. They were at that time to introduce wolves, and their documentation said they wanted 1,000 wolves in Colorado.
Denny, do you have any idea what your current population might be?
Absolutely not. Nobody does. I mean, if we get information, meaning CPW, from Wyoming or the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service on a wolf that has a collar, that's one thing. But those wolves that are migrating into the state, like the one that was shot was April of 2015 by a coyote hunter, that wolf did not have a collar on it. And, we don't, how do we know? I mean, they don't go through a check station.
Yeah.
Well, they can't read maps either. Our Mexican gray was not real keen on staying within the boundaries, so they're spreading like a plague.
The most of our wolves, the Mexican gray wolves, most of them are collared. The problem that you've got up in Colorado is that the migrating ones from Wyoming have not been collared at all. So there's no way. I mean, you literally cannot count wolves as they come across the borders.
And that's the dilemma that we have, guys. And that's why we're saying that we need a plan put in place. And our biggest situation with that is how do we determine how many wolves is enough? You can't go out and count them. They won't, there's no census to be taken. And so, do you use it based off of livestock damage claims when they can come out and actually identify the fact that it was a wolf?
That's a virtual impossibility, though, because a wolf will bring down the cow, and part of that is the kill lust that they have as an animal. That's part of their DNA is that they're killers. And then the scavengers, which are coyotes, are going to come in and obliterate any evidence that it was done by that.
We've got a situation over here. We've got a Mexican gray wolf, F1437, and the Fish and Wildlife Service initially had a 3-strike rule. You do 3 bad things, you get managed, and that's up in the air. It's kind of like the word is. What does that mean? But she's got 9 to her credit, 9 depredations, and another possible 3. And because the fear of social outcry, this wolf isn't being managed. So I mean, we've got political stuff all over the place. But let me ask you, what's coming down on the Cyrus Moose? You talked about some type of initiative on behalf of the moose.
Yes. Big Game Forever has put forth the Cyrus Moose Protection Act, and we're going to start pushing that through Congress. A lot of people don't realize how bad the situation's been in Montana and Idaho and Wyoming. They've lost 90% of their Cyrus moose.
Let me help put this into perspective. The largest population of moose is in Utah. Figure that out.
Well, maybe it is, but we feel we've got a huge population of moose here in Colorado as well. And so the Cyrus moose, if your listeners don't know, The Shiras moose is indigenous to the Rocky Mountain states. It's found nowhere else. And so now in the northern three states, that population is plummeted by 90%. And so where they're thriving is Utah and Colorado. And in order for us to preserve that particular species, we put forth the Moose Restoration Act. And so we'll be pushing that through Congress as well.
Is there going to be a wolf management provision within that Moose Act?
Yes, sir.
Nice.
That's your ace in the hole, by the way, because
That
under
sure
the
helps.
Endangered Species Act, if the Shiras moose is that close to extinction, then they can't have a predator, an apex predator like the northern gray wolf involved in that area. You can't.
Correct. And so that's one of the things that we're looking at to help protect that moose population and, in some way to start to manage the wolf. Guys, so that your public that's listening understands, we don't hate the wolf. It's one of God's creatures, and it is a major, major predator. We think we need to be able to manage it just like any other predator.
Denny, that's well said. Listen, I want to thank you for joining us today. I'll be in touch with you next week. We want to have you back. And once again, thank you for all your hard work on the ground and on the hill.
You bet. And John,
Yes, sir.
Good to hear your voice again. So you guys take care down there.
Thank you.
Don't go away. More of Shake, Rattle, and Troll is coming up.
All righty, we're back. Good information from Denny up in Grand Junction, Colorado. I know those guys worked really hard on the Trump campaign, heavily involved in the conservation efforts, especially on the wolf, the moose, the elk, the deer, all the things we hold near and dear. JK, during the break, you and I were talking, the winds of change are blowing. Denny mentioned that Don Trump Jr. had some good things to say about conservation efforts.
Absolutely.
I think one of the things we're going to see is a accelerated initiative to cut the head off of the snake, so to speak, for the left-wing and viral litigants, the CBD and the like, which is the Equal Access to Justice Act.
Well, not only that, Don, but I think that, with the current situation now and the change in Washington, what we need is a replacement on the liberal federal judges who have consistently mandated that the wolf expansion be all across the United States. And that's a problem.
That's true too, but how do you manage state jurisdictions that are handing down these left-wing issues before they get to the big court?
Well, even so, any documentation or any lawsuit regarding a wolf has to go to a federal court, even if it's an appellate court, even if it's a local federal judge. Those are all things that have to come to that lowest level because it's a federally protected animal. So that's part of the process is that they have to go to federal court. You can't go to a state court on that type of thing. You have to go to a federal court with it.
And what's your prognosis on the endangered species? I know Loomis was working on that. We need to look into that and see if there's any movement on that coming up.
Well, you're going to see over probably the next 2 years, a real heavy concentration on two things. Number one is the Endangered Species Act, and then number two is the Equal Access to Justice Act. Those two features are going to be very critical for us in the future, determining where we go as a hunting community, because the Equal Access to Justice Act has virtually lined the pockets of the Center for Biological Diversity, the Sierra Club, Defenders of Wildlife.
Well, it keeps them in business.
Yeah, it is. That's what does it. I mean, here's my next question. If the Shiras moose is virtually 90% depleted in the United States, why aren't the Center for Biological Diversity and the Sierra Club filing lawsuits in protection of the Shiras moose? Because that's a species that's indigenous to only that area. They have to protect it. If they don't, then they are hypocrites by and large, and which we've all felt all along.
Okay, I'm glad you posed that question because it goes back to, I know you don't want to hear this, but it goes back to Agenda 21. These guys are managing wildlife by apex predators.
Yes.
They don't want us on the landscape, and it's part of the old, puzzle. And it's just another piece. They want the wolves, they want the bears, they want the predators that eat stuff. That's the only thing they want out there.
Well, yeah,
but they haven't taken it far. They haven't taken it far enough. Let's just say hypothetically, we got wolves and bears running everywhere. They're going to eat everything, and then who's next?
Yeah. Yeah, they don't want. We are the apex predator, by the way. Just so you know, we are the apex predator.
Make no mistake about that.
They are lopping us out of that circuit.
Well, they want us depleted by 85% at the end of
the next millennium.
Agenda 21, and it goes back to some of the meltdown and the EPA. The folks at the EPA are having. They have cry rooms. They have therapy dogs. They have therapy aroma. They have comfort food because they know what's about to happen.
They need it.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just saying. It's going to be an interesting 2017, to say the very least. And
I'm looking forward to the change. Absolutely.
I am too. And again today, coming in, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but I was stunned to hear that NASCAR fans are racist. So I just.
They're not racist. They're simply the good old boys who have loved stock car racing since
I'd like to see that one go down there and tell those folks in Talladega.
Yeah, I understand. Again, that's somebody.
NASCAR's a national heritage.
Yeah. Tell that to Juan Pablo Montoya.
Oh, yeah.
Come on. I'm sorry. I didn't see him being white bread. He's not. I mean, if you are a good race car driver, you're going to find a home.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't care who you are, what color you are, what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, guess what day it is? It's NASCAR Day. Yep. Homestead, downtown Miami.
We're getting there.
Yeah, ought to be a good one. So, listen, we've got a little uncomfortable business to do today. We have roll call. Going to be especially painful today. I did have an occasion on Thursday. I met with Captain Commander Dave Esparza and Chief Parsons down at the new Coast Guard recruiting office in downtown Phoenix, 2400 North Central, Suite 108. If you're interested in a career in the United States Coast Guard, they will welcome you.
They won't welcome me. I can't swim.
I'm just saying. I mean, that okay. But what one of the things we did talk about is a lot of Coast Guard guys get overlooked because they're part of the Department of Homeland Security, so we don't often get their names through our normal sources from DOD or Department of Defense. But we've got a special category up on our website for World War II veterans, and I want to start off today by talking about a retired Coast Guard captain, Victor Cole, that is pretty interesting. He's got a real interesting military career. He served in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. That's quite a career. He was born in 1921 and passed away recently in Sun City West. Purple Heart recipient. That was kind of earth-shaking. We're losing our veterans.
I know.
From World War II very rapidly, and we have a couple of police officers to tell you about. The first one's Deputy Commander Patrick Carruthers, U.S. Marshals Service, was shot on November 18th in Long County, Georgia. They were trying to take a felony fugitive, and shots were fired. He was killed, and his buddies shot and killed the guy that had opened fire on him. So,
second one is Deputy Sheriff Dennis Wallace out of Stanislaus County Sheriff's Department in California. Deputy Sheriff Dennis Wallace was shot and killed at Foxgrove Park in Houston while investigating a suspicious vehicle. He requested a backup officers after dispatchers alerted him that the vehicle was stolen. When the second deputy arrived, he discovered Deputy Wallace suffering 2 gunshot wounds to the head. It was quickly determined he was shot in the head at point-blank range. The man was taken into custody by members of the Lindsay Police Department later in the day after attempting to steal a woman's purse. Deputy Wallace had served with the Stanislaus County Sheriff's Department for 20 years. He is survived by his wife and children.
And we lost one of our own today. John, if you would.
Yeah. Shake, Rattle, and Troll roll call, November 20th, 2016. Memorial for Patrick McDowell. Patrick McDowell, Pat, passed away on November 17th, 2016 due to heart complications after a long battle. We are sad Patrick has left us, as he was a dedicated contributor to Shake, Rattle, and Troll, and his brother Don McDowell, both in his business and with Shake, Rattle, and Troll. Patrick performed his service as Don's production for the show radio, graphics designer, and production development chief engineer aboard the Challenged America. We will deeply miss Patrick, his love, humor, dedication, companionship, hunting and fishing, and just being your brother. Condolences, Don. Amen.
Yep. All righty, we're back. Thank you for tuning in to Shake, Rattle, and Troll today. This is the second hour, and we're going to change gears and go to our buddy, the tackle master himself, Rick at H&M Landing. Brother Rick, what's happening, man?
Well, bluefin are still going off. We have two boats out there. One of the six-packs just came back with 9 from 65 to 130 pounds.
Whoa, dude.
And they didn't start biting until about 9 o'clock at night. So
Go figure.
Old Glory did the same thing. They're on the way back now, but we haven't had any radio contact with them. But we should know in about an hour. I know they got about at least 9 last we heard.
How far did they run?
It's about 90 miles.
Wow.
About 90 miles out to the Tanner Bank.
Tanner Banks. That was going to be my next word out of my mouth. Yep. All right. Cool beans, man.
Eating live squid. It's been a challenging way to fish because the baits up there, they have to go up and make bait sometimes the night before, then come back and run the trip. But they went the extra mile and made a difference. It's been good fishing.
Wow.
Real quality.
You know, we've got one of Senator McCain's campaign guys, Stephen Shattuck's over there.
Oh.
Yeah, I talked to him on Tuesday. He was going Thursday, Friday. I don't know what boat he was on, so.
I'm not sure. Maybe he's on this one. Who knows?
Yeah, go figure.
Well, if he is, I hope he got one. Hey, Don, I want to offer my condolences for Pat. I just read about that. Very sorry. He's a good guy.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Rick. He thought the world of all you guys over there, most certainly.
Yeah, it's sad news, man.
Yeah, it happens. Roll call sucks today. It just absolutely was the epitome of suck. So.
Yeah. Yeah, but good fishing, though. Half-day boats are doing pretty well, catching plenty of rockfish, keeping the people happy. But that bluefin is really what's...
I see the Alicia's running lobster trips. How's that working out?
They've been doing pretty well. The lobster crawl isn't as rampant as we hoped it would be, but they're having a good time because they're fishing in the bay, too, at the same time, and catching some bass and pulling some lobsters and having a beer and having a great time.
Okay, time out.
What?
You're dealing with the bullet guy here. Rick, talk to me. How do you catch lobsters?
Very carefully.
Yeah, come on. I mean,
hold your breath a long time.
Wait a minute. You're not on line. You're not catching them with a line and
it's
lures.
JK on a rope.
No, what we have is lobster hoop
traps. Okay.
Yeah. Bait the traps, drop them down, do like a milk run. Drop them, pull them, and whatever's in that trap is yours.
Okay. So basically, what you got is buoy hang-ups. And they drop down to the bottom, and you pull them when you come back.
Yep.
How long do you leave them in?
About 45 minutes.
Okay. Hurry, boys. Come on. Cover yourselves with hot butter. Run.
That's about
it. You're a sick man, JK. Yeah.
Thank you.
Help me out, Rick, here. What's the size limit on these bugs?
The bug has to be 3¼ inches across the thorax, kind of like the carapace, between the two little spines on their eye to the where the tail joins.
What? Serious?
Yep. So about 3/4 pound is how they are.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
But you don't weigh them. You have to use a little gauge that they have on the boats to make that distinction.
Do they make it when you drop them back over all the way down?
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing to it.
Okay.
Yeah, they are very, very resilient.
Huh.
Absolutely.
I think that would be fun to do.
It is fun.
How many traps do you drop on a run?
Oh, you're only allowed 10 traps per boat.
Ooh.
So they have 10. Now, some people buy tickets for 2. So you can buy up to 6 traps to drop on your own.
Huh. In a 45-minute time frame.
Per drop. Sometimes more, sometimes less.
Okay. What's the usual success rate on a box like that? I mean,
It's fishing. As far as the usual success rate, you never know.
Huh. I think that's fun.
Yeah, it is fun. It's a lot of fun. And good eating, too.
You'd have a blast.
I've done that on the East Coast for
That's the
crabs.
Yeah.
Crabbing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Same type of thing.
Okay. That answers my question then. Huh. That's fun.
Yeah, it is fun. It is
Okay.
fun.
What's the cost to go out for lobsters?
It's $65. You do need a California license and a lobster card. If you don't have them, that comes to about $23 for both of those on top of that.
A lobster card?
Uh-huh. Because good old California finds a way to tax everything.
I've got a grumpy old man card, but that's where mine stops.
I think they have too many of those here.
Oh, man.
No, you have too many liberal cards out there. And you're right. Everything in California is legislated.
That's Northern California.
Okay. All right. Jeez.
So, yeah, let me ask you this. This year we've been signing petition about parking issues. Anything going on that?
Nothing concrete yet. We don't have a new parking spot by any means.
Yeah, your area for parking in there is pretty limited.
Oh, man.
Challenging during the summer. There's plenty of room right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I've been there in the summer, and it's just, I mean, where do you park? You could go 3 miles away to get in.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but it can be challenging to find a park.
Well, it's about ready for the liberals to come on their wine, cheese, and whale watching trips, is it not?
It's going to start on November 23rd. And you know what? You can say that kind of stuff about it, but it's something pretty remarkable about being on the water, having whales around your boat.
I'll tell you what, it's absolutely awesome.
Yeah, really
we had a charter one day in Tight with some guys from Oklahoma Gas Commission, Natural Gas Commission, and they were drinking beer, having a corporate whatever. And there was a old couple and looked like a 24-foot Boston whaler, let's say, and a small orca whale was playing with that boat.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he was kind of like scratching his hump on the bottom of the boat, and the old folks were squealing and carrying on. We went over to, we thought they were in distress at first, and the closer we got, the funnier it became, and the Coast Guard came out and tried to shoo the whale away, and that didn't work out either.
No.
It was awesome.
You need a bigger boat.
You just never know. I mean, something's going to happen out there, and it's usually all good. It's just, like you say, Rick, being on the water is replaced by nothing.
Yeah, you see something new every time.
Yeah, absolutely. How much Navy aviators and military activity are you seeing? Anything out of the ordinary?
No, nothing. Nothing unusual. Why, have you heard some stories?
Nope.
We've had some briefings and just keeping our fingers crossed. We've got some some threats of guys doing bad things at the holiday parade. So yeah, you never know.
Really?
Yeah. All right. Listen, man, we appreciate your kind words on Patrick. God love you. We'll see you in the next week or so.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Don't forget to come see us at H&M Landing or 2803 Emerson Street. The phone number is 619-222-1144 or hmlanding.com.
What he said.
Done.
I'm Patrick McDowell, and I'm forced to listen to Shake, Rattle, and Troll every Sunday morning on KFNX, 1100 AM, Independent Talk Radio.
righty, we are back. We got a all points bulletin out on Captain Mike on the Relentless. Captain Bill is limping his way to church.
Captain Laid Back, I hope you're doing well.
Yeah, I think on the 14th he goes in for the other artificial knee.
Oh, good.
He's complaining now that, he's been through the pain issue. He's pretty much ambulatory, but it's about 3/4 to 7/8 of an inch longer than his other one.
That makes walking difficult.
Well, we're talking he has to walk from port to starboard around the boat because that's the way it lists.
That's sick, Don. Just saying, that's sick.
He is all good. Couple things I want to tell you about. At the top of the first hour, we're expecting Congressman Paul Gosar in. We are expecting our Attorney General Mark Brnovich in. We are expecting Commissioner Davis in. And I say that because...
Yeah, word has leaked out that he is getting a second term. There were two absolutely sterling candidates this time.
Absolutely there was.
Yep, Jim Unmocked and Kurt Davis. And, Kurt obviously has some real strong political connections within the state as well as federally, and he is a great asset for doing that. Jim Unmocked, on the other hand, is probably one of the finest sportsmen and one of the best advocates for conservation in this state. He's also one of the most keen minds that I've ever seen or heard or listened or seen his written words.
Oh.
Jim has
he is the absolute master.
Yeah, he crafts some of the best documents I've ever seen. And, you call me the voice of moderation and reason, which in most instances I'm okay. But if you take a look at the work that Jim has published and some of the things that he's written in support of sportsmen and our ideals and methods, by far the best I've ever seen.
Just so you'll know, we now have friends in the White House. On the Trump transition team, I have submitted, I mentioned Larry Voil's resume and credentials, along with Jim Unmocked, to fulfill Sally Jewell's vacant position as Secretary of Department of Interior.
I could not think of a better person to do it than Mr.
I'll tell you what, there'd be a horse in every backyard and a buffalo in every freezer.
Oh, that's what we need. A buffalo in everybody's freezer.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, we still have no responses yet. This is the problem. It perpetuates because of the length of time that any kind of a federal action is required in order to remove a species that is causing devastation. You look at that, and what's going to happen on monument lands when there are problems? It takes 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years to get any kind of firm action on the ground.
Well, the week after Thanksgiving, the burners are going to get turned up underneath our, elected officials on some issues. The Buffalo issue, Congressman Gosar hit the ground running right after the Veterans Day parade on a number of issues. You have before you a 3 or 4 page document on the downside of the Grand Canyon Monument. We've got the Buffalo issue there. We'll be talking to McCain's office about that now that he's done pandering for votes and secured himself for another 4 years. He needs to start paying attention to the guys that put him there, let's just say. The sage grouse issue is real hot right now. Hopefully we'll have some more information right after Thanksgiving on that. I'm not sure which way that's going to go.
Yeah.
McCain's balking at it. Senators, leadership on both sides of the Senate and the House are pushing for it.
But
Speaker Ryan has indicated that we would like to see this vote.
Here, right now, we have the ability, because in the next session, we have a Congress and we have a Senate and we have a executive office that are all Republican. It could be in as a single line issue to take care of that non-designation as endangered for the sage grouse. I understand where it's hooked on now to the Department of Defense bill.
Right.
But with the 3 houses, with the 3 sections, the 3 arms of our legislature, why can't we have it done just as a single line item?
I can't answer that. I've asked that question. I thought perhaps as simplistic sometimes as and pragmatic.
I am as well.
As I am. Look, DOI, Department of Interior, already has said we're not going to list the greater sage grouse.
Right.
Okay? They've already approved, state of Wyoming had a conservation plan for the sage grouse along with Utah, Colorado,
Utah's
and
good.
All those guys up there. So my question to the senator is, I said, look, instead of let's get in a fight with you and you balking and, this is going to get uglier. Why can't we, by virtue of an MOU, since DOI has already agreed to these things, carry it forward on an MOU for Colorado, Utah, and 8 other states or 9 other states, whatever it is, including Arizona. And one of the thoughts here is, well, we don't care about it because we don't have sage grouse. Well, that's all fine and dandy, but we had historic range.
There you go. We are
and,
part
and,
of its
and
historic
that
range.
was my comment to Jim Unmuck. That's where Jim's coming at it, and I totally get it. But it impacts 13B. It affects the strip. It affects the mule deer.
Absolutely.
And guess what? The same thing applies on Mexican gray wolves. We have a little bit of a historic range. Colorado, Utah doesn't have any.
No.
And they're about to get them.
Yeah.
If we can't derail this thing, so it's just like, wow. It's a fight.
Oh, yeah.
And I understand, okay, we don't have sage grouse, but we don't care. Well, I'm going to call BS on that. We have to care because it's part of their movement. And one of the other things I wanted to, I know you'll have a huge interest in this, global warming.
Climate change?
Chemtrails.
Yeah.
Well, there's a guy, G. Edward Griffin, has an upcoming event on global warming, and an inconvenient lie is planned for here in Phoenix, December 3rd. And there's some bantering back and forth. These guys are fighting like crazy. I talked to Lexi Hunter.
Yeah, I saw a couple of the emails.
The other day, and Judy Staub's involved, and there was another guy trying to pass this off as CO2, which is a ruse. And anyway, this Mr. Griffin has some stuff. I'll go ahead and include this in the next newsletter. There's a link. You can listen to a 14-minute video on what he has to say. This definitely is heating up. Now I want you to watch. We have rain forecast for late today and Monday.
Right.
And we had a little bit forecast earlier in the week. I think it was Tuesday morning.
Mm-hmm.
There, around 7:30 to 8:30, there were 12 separate chemtrail dispersals right over Metro Phoenix. It all went away.
I've gotten out of the habit of looking for those.
Well,
I need to get back into it.
Well, when I was up in southern Utah this past time, and in fact the other time we went to Senator Lee and Congressman Stewart's office, those guys are getting hammered up there. Vegas is getting hammered. Northern California, these guys are screaming drought, drought, drought. They've had like 160 million trees die in Northern California.
Ooh.
Another 35 million from June of 2015 to current day. And, why there's not being pressure brought to bear on the federal government to, stop this, or at least admit, it took them 3 decades to go, okay, Area 51's real.
Exist.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
That's not a UFO. That's a stealth bomber. These guys are just full of crap. We know they're doing it.
Well, it's geoengineering.
Well, CIA in the Vietnam era, they had Air America. It came back to America after the war was over. They called it Evergreen. It was housed out of Marana. And right now, I've asked Judy, Lexi, and as soon as I touch base with this guy, I'd like to know where the hell these things are flying out of.
Yeah.
I'll go take pictures. I'm already on the watch list.
It's sure as hell not coming out of a commercial airport.
John, I don't know that. I don't know what the military's launching. I've asked the guys down at Phoenix Sky Harbor International, hey, can I come up and just observe in the flight tower. Well, what do you want to see? I want to see military aircraft take off with transponders and all this. No, you can't do that.
Yeah. Then you're not. You don't have.
That's while I'm meeting. I'm doing a story. He said, "Well, you still can't do that."
No, there's only so much that you can.
We could disguise Josh and send him down there.
Oh, absolutely. You know, he would look like the astute professor with that nice beard that he's got.
Oh yeah, I mean he's got the beard thing going on.
Perfect. Yeah.
I'd offer him some beard oil, but it doesn't come in a quart jar. That's a good beard, man.
Oh, Lord. Oh, by the way, I wanted to comment one thing. Congressman Gosar, who has been a strong advocate for sportsmen as well as states' rights, the Arizona Republic this past week issued a command that they are going to have. They wanted people to support the Grand Canyon National Monument, pointing out that a majority of Arizonans want to have the Grand Canyon protected. Well, they don't specify the protection, and they also didn't specify that survey was done by the Grand Canyon Trust, who is as green as the world is today.
The trust? That's an oxymoron.
Yeah. However, Congressman Gosar, in a scientific poll conducted by Coleman Dom and Associates, found that 71.6% of Arizonans don't want the Grand Canyon National Monument. Amen.
Good information to have. All right, hey, when we come back, we're going to check with the master rod builder on the Rim Country Custom Rod Fishing Report on the Mother Lake. I'm Don McDowell, and you are?
Special K.
He talks to elk. Go figure. All right, and we're back, changing gears, going to downtown Payson, where it's probably, let's see, it's 8:30, I'm guessing.
32 degrees.
I'm going to say 38. What is it, James?
Well, actually, we're in the 40s now, but our low last night was 35 degrees.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's definitely, late fall, early winter up here. Things are cooling down big time. I mean, everybody's wearing coats, walking around in the morning, so we're starting to feel it for sure.
That's a good excuse to stay in the house and watch NASCAR today.
Well, yeah, if you want to waste time.
Are you telling me you're not a racist? Everybody that watches NASCAR is a racist. I heard it live on the radio this morning.
Yeah, I don't want to go there. I mean, each his own, but I always have...
Look, I've got a bet with JK. Have you got a Confederate flag tacked up in the wall of your garage?
Nope. I don't.
I didn't, but I will by noon.
If you can find them to buy them.
Oh, yeah, they're up at Allied Surplus.
Oh, okay.
Yep. All righty, my good friend, before we get in some more trouble, what's happening?
Hey, I've been following along online here, and, the big news in Rim Country is exactly what you guys were talking about earlier. Elections have consequences, and people are looking forward to a new leader in the Department of the Interior, which the U.S. Fish and Wildlife reports into the Department of Interior. So there could be some changes in the future for wildlife management, particularly the Mexican gray wolf.
Yeah, amen.
So,
we did have that conversation about Larry Voiles. I think, John concurs that he'd be good at that. And John thought I was kidding. I did submit Jim Unmock's credentials for Department of the Interior.
Oh, it'd be fun.
But I don't know how that ponytail... Well,
the ponytail would work. They're still green.
Yeah,
don't worry.
I'm saying.
But, the good thing is, and this is what a lot of people are saying up here, somebody from one of the western states who's really living what's going on with some of these decisions, not only related to the wolves, but the Endangered Species Act abuse that's going on. Somebody from one of the western states who's living this thing needs to be there and be in a decision-making position.
Well, I personally, I think you're going to see that. I could be wrong, but I'd bet a Big Mac on that one.
Yeah, I hope you're right. That it certainly helped.
Has there been any fallout, from the left? I know you got some green folks up there, bless their hearts. Any meltdowns? Have you had to create a crying area down at the arena for them?
A safe place down at Green Valley Lake.
yeah, that's it. Yeah.
No, I can't say that. Most of the group of guys that I talk to and women, most are happy with the election results and looking forward to it. And, we just hope there's some changes that come down. This is what people have been asking for a long time. So we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I suggested to a Democrat the other day that was kind of whining that the only safe place there was in a foxhole. So, you need to put your head down because the war has started.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot that has to be renegotiated and changed, particularly for those people who live west of the Mississippi. And when you say somebody from the west, we're not talking Aspen, we're not talking San Francisco, we're not talking Hollywood.
Well, Denny pretty well pointed that out, the way Colorado went, the way they've got a Republican Senate,
a Democratic House and a Democratic governor.
Yep. So, and they went blue.
Well, not only that, they've been smoking marijuana for the last 4 years. Give me a break.
Panama Red.
Yep.
Panama Red.
You wonder why their decisions are the way they are? Guess.
Yeah, go figure. All right, what's happening on the Mother Lake, James?
Hey, the Mother Lake is good winter fishing. There was a guy that just stopped by the house here 10 minutes ago to drop off some rods to get repaired. And he said that he was using casting spoons and caught as many fish as he wanted to. The problem was they're all what we call slot-size fish, so 13 to 16 kind of inch-long fish. But lots of them feeding right now, heavy feeding time for a lot of fish. Know that it's going to get colder here in another month, so they're fattening up. The lake's at 35% full, been pretty consistent. We are slowly rising. Every day it's up slightly. So as long as they don't continue to take water out of the Salt River chain, that's a good thing for us. The salt is flowing at 60% of its normal rate, and the tonneau's flowing at 30%. That's been pretty consistent for the last week or so. In addition to spoons, if you get a sunny day, like today we're a little overcast, so most guys would be fishing spoons most of the day. But if the sun would come out, you can switch over to a drop shot, Texas rig type bait. But it's been pretty much deep water spoons. So you look in 30 to 40 feet, and that's where you'll find these schools of bass feeding.
Nice.
Yep. The rim lakes are getting colder for sure. Got one report that it was like 17 degrees on top of the rim last week one day. So it is definitely getting cold up there.
My guess is that would be that little vortex where Forest Lake's located.
Oh, absolutely.
That place is just weird right there.
Yeah, it's definitely getting cold. I mean, guys are wearing winter coats up there now, but they're still reporting a good bite. Power baits and salmon eggs still work well this time of year. It seems like they even get a little more firm, the salmon eggs in the colder water.
They don't melt. That's a big deal.
Yeah. James, it's called frozen.
Yeah.
Okay.
By the way, James, just so you know, I was up with Don's son, Donnie McDowell, last weekend up there hunting elk. And when we got out of the cabin in the morning, first time, it was 22 degrees Sunday morning. So, yeah, those temperatures are valid.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there is nothing in the whole wide world colder than a plastic seat in an outhouse. At first light.
Oh, yeah.
Like the voice of experience.
Oh, yeah, man.
Unfortunately.
You got to love it.
Yeah. Hey, so fun time in rim country. The leaves are all changed, and it's beautiful yellow up there. While you look at some of those mountains, and the reds and the yellow leaves out there, just are spectacular.
Yeah.
The elk in the morning, you can see the breath coming out of them. They're pretty spectacular photographs if people want to get up and see that stuff. So come on up to rim country and enjoy it. It's a good time of year to be here.
Great stuff. What are you planning for Rim Country Custom Rods moving into the Christmas season? Any specials, anything like that going on?
Yeah, thank you, Don. Yes, we always have a 15% sale at Christmas time on all custom-built fishing rods, and now is the time to order. It takes about a month for the cycle to order materials and get rods built. So if you're thinking of a Christmas gift as a Christmas rod, as a fishing rod, now would be the time to give a call to Rim Country Custom Rods.
Cool.
Thinking.
Yeah, I like it.
I do
like
too.
It. Yeah, I'm smelling an 8 foot, about an 8'2"
Tuna fish.
Yeah,
Tuna fish.
tuna rod. Yeah. Yeah.
Is Jan listening in here this morning?
Yeah, probably not. Yeah. All right, good stuff. Boy, we've had such a great year this year. The tuna fishing, I don't know if you heard the report, there's still 65 to 100 plus pound bluefin out on the Tanner Banks, which is a little bit of a boat ride, but man, I mean, the opportunity's still there.
Yeah, how much fun is that? All fishing this year on offshore stuff. I mean, it's an exciting time to be fishing anywhere, it seems like.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been talking with our buddy Jimmy Dwight from JDJ Realty. I've been fishing with Jimmy for years. He's got a long range. When I say long range, I think it's a 5-day trip the week after Thanksgiving before New Year's on the Red Rooster 3. And that's one of the premier boats. It's I don't remember how long it is. I think it's a 105, 110-foot vessel with all the amenities, flat screen TVs. It's got direct TV satellite and staterooms. Awesome. In quite frankly, most of the vessels have a good galley chief, a cook. They have a chef.
Oh,
so their meals are
a little on the plus side.
Yeah, I'd give them a minimum of 4 stars, unless it's really bumpy out there, and then soup is not an option.
No, unless you want it all over you.
Well, yeah, if you want to piss the guy off, he goes, "Hey, what do you want for lunch?" I said, "Give me grilled cheese and tomato soup."
Not having it.
No, it's all good stuff. What are your prognosis for 2017 on the fishing over at Roosevelt?
The big thing up here, we're always talking about those Florida strain bass that are in there, and guys are calling us and saying they think that they're catching these. Not necessarily that you can tell a difference by catching them, because they're pretty hard to tell for an average fisherman. But we're definitely getting reports of small fish that fight really hard. So as those Florida strain bass get bigger, it's going to be a fun time at Roosevelt next year.
Oh man, we got Florida strain, we got tiger trout. Arizona's getting with the program.
Yep.
All righty, man. We're going to wish you a good day, James. Thanks for all your participation, man.
Appreciate it. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Absolutely. We're going to stand down. When we come back, we're going to get this wrapped up and go watch NASCAR.
There you go.
Wave my flag. All righty, we're back. I want to thank everybody for listening today. Good information from Denny out of Grand Junction, Colorado. We'll be monitoring as part of Big Game Forever here in Arizona what they're doing with the Shiras moose.
That is going to be a very, very interesting case study, because the left has pushed so hard for an apex predator that is wiping out herds of elk and moose. Yep. It's going to be interesting to see how they respond to the Endangered Species Act regarding the Shiras moose.
Well, it's interesting to see the whining and the crying of especially the Center for Biological Biodiversity, Carolyn Suckling. They need to go to a safe place and have a cry-in, and they're doing that.
I know.
You've seen the emails. Oh my God, there's a war on, and this and that and the other thing, and they're right. There is a war on, and
we've been the victims for the long 8 years.
But now we're rearmed, and we're going to bring it to them.
I absolutely hope so.
And we have the contingent that has been working on the greater sage grouse, and during the Donald Trump campaign. We will be in Washington, D.C. with a meet and greet with the new president, I believe the second week of February.
Awesome, Donnie.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we're definitely going to keep the gas turned up. The lines of communication open with Don Trump Jr. are still open. And we're feeding information and thoughts and philosophies and those kinds of things that Washington hasn't had, or at least hasn't paid attention to.
Well, they haven't seen it because it
decades.
won't get there.
No, it won't. Was there any final thoughts on Congressman Gosar's? We're going to have that out in the next email, and we'll get Doug to post that up on the website. And I would encourage you to go to shakerattleandtroll.com, ANDTROLL.com. Check out the website. There's a link there you can click on up in the upper right-hand corner, sign up for the newsletter. Doug's doing a great job of putting information out there, not only from Arizona, but some of the national stuff that's going on. We get a lot of input from Wyoming for some reason. I get just scads of stuff from Wyoming.
I've signed up I'm a receiver of Cynthia Loomis. She's a representative from Wyoming, and she's a remarkable woman who is a staunch advocate for Western states' rights.
Well, she sponsored the EAJA lookout.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes. Yeah. Well, the accountability. There was no oversight committee at all on all the funding that went to pay off all of these lawsuits by the Center, Sierra Club, and HSUS. They didn't know how much money they were giving away.
Well, DOJ is trying to discover that, and everybody's liar pants on fire. They're pulling the Hillary Clinton. Gee, I don't remember.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Those were deleted. By the way, you asked about what Congressman Gosar did, and in combination with Jim Parks from the Arizona Farm Bureau, if you look at where the proposed Grand Canyon National Monument is, they're going to take, and I mean literally take 64,000 acres of Arizona State Trust land and almost 28,000 acres of private land. Private land is going to be taken and put into a monument designation, which means that guy cannot use his land.
Yeah.
There's something really special wrong about that.
Yeah. To put it in simple terms, it sucks.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, yeah, whatever.
We try and dress it up a little bit. Well, I'm looking forward to this next 4 years in terms of the East Coast being educated into what the West Coast feels. Because if the rules that apply to us would go to them, they would be screaming bloody murder.
Well, they're going to start screaming because the heat's being turned up on them. We actually, even before the election, have been turning the heat up on them with all the good work that the department has done. Jim DeVos specifically, the state's Attorney General Mark Brnovich, on the court decision. I know Jim's. I'm looking forward to having Jim back down here to find out just exactly where we are shifting in a transition from U.S. historic range for the Mexican gray wolf into Mexico, where it came from.
Absolutely.
And I just hope we can get them all transplanted in Mexico before we build the wall. And we will. And guess who's going to pay for it?
Could be a fence.
Whatever.
Yeah, I know. Mexico's going to pay for it.
Yeah, I get it.
All right, one quick thing regarding the Mexican gray wolf. We know that the White Mountain Apache Indian Reservation has a poverty level that is extreme. Part of it is just simply because of the nature of where it's located. It's so far away from commercial mainstream.
What happens to the Honda money?
The Honda money is distributed throughout the part of the members of the reservation.
You know what that is per capita?
I do not.
Annually?
I have no idea. Okay. But I know that they are still operating at an extreme poverty level, particularly, White River and those areas.
Yeah.
I know that the federal government pays the White Mountain Apache tribe approximately $150,000 to $200,000 a year to maintain the wolves on the reservation. I always wondered if somebody said, we will give you $1 million a year not to have wolves on the White Mountain Apache Indian Reservation, what the response would be. I know there was some dialogue because if they look at it, their cash cow, literally, each year is the elk hunts that they have for the well-heeled money that pays $25,000 per tag. So if you have 20 hunters who are paying $25,000 each, you're talking some serious money. I'd like to see what would happen if they also had a bonus pool paid for by sportsmen of $1 million a year not to have Mexican gray wolves so they could grow more elk.
Nice.
And the other question we are going to have, of course, coming soon, and I've heard that it's coming out this week, is some discussion about the feral horse and burros that we have all across the state of Arizona.
Woohoo! Nevada's right in the thick of that. That's kind of like
absolutely
the heart of it. Now, I've had some discussions with Brian Wakeling on it, and he's just absolutely beside himself.
Sure.
Just because of the political end of it.
What is he seeing on the devastation? Has he talked to you at all?
Yeah. Just about what we've espoused here. It's, the devastation is rampant, and it's just it's nuts.
Yeah.
I think that's going to change. We're turning up the gas as we go along in 2017 on the Feral Hog Watch. The last time I was in St. George was a couple of weeks ago, three weeks ago, whatever it was. And we went into Utah DNR office, and we introduced ourselves, told us what we wanted to look at, and we're just visiting.
Yeah. And
the first topic of discussion is, well, what do you know about the feral hogs on the Strip? I go, excuse me? Feral hogs? She goes, yeah. There's a lot of them there. I said, well, do you have information? She said, I'll get it to you. So,
feral hogs?
Feral hogs on the Strip. Yeah, they're coming up from Black's Mountain, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And we've got feral hogs on the Kaibab. We've got 3 sightings now. The first one we just kind of went, maybe. And then the second one came in, and the third one came in. Joey Notches talked to one of the hog guys, or the hunters at least, that spied him. And, it was a 250 to 300-pound hog. So where there's one,
there's more.
Multiple more. So.
That also spells bacon, too.
Yeah,
so you know.
free-range bacon, yeah. Mike Valdez was down in southern Arizona. I specifically tasked him. He's a hunter. I said, just watch for sign. If you haven't see any sign, let me know. GPS it, that kind of thing. So we've got right now 18, not counting Kaibab and the Strip, because I don't have any GPS coordinates for those sightings here in Arizona, as close as Australia Mountains.
Really?
Yeah. So Camp Birdie.
Yeah, Camp Birdie, I know has them.
Yeah, I've seen them in Camp Birdie.
We have to. Everybody who goes hunting should know that if you see a feral hog, shoot it.
Shoot it.
Because the devastation that it's done in Texas and Oklahoma is incredible. They have literally destroyed thousands of crops.
Well, Texas is doomed. New Mexico is...
they're getting there.
I think they're at what you like to call the tipping point. I don't think they can barbecue their way out of what they've got.
And
there's nothing in the works that are taking care of it. So,
amen.
Anyway, that said, you guys have a great day today, and NASCAR. I don't even know what to think about NASCAR today.
We're going to leave that one alone.
Yeah, I'll attack my Confederate flag up in my garage.
Amen.
Anyway, hey, thanks for listening. Check out ShakeRattleAndTroll.com, AZBW.com. I'm Don McDowell.
Special guest.
He talks to elk. Hug your bass boat, take your kids fishing, man. We're out of here.